Hello and welcome to the Crafty Pint Podcast. I'm Will.
I'm James, and once again, Will, we've somehow failed to be in the same room together, despite the fact we now supposedly inhabit this same building where our studio is. And unfortunate reasons. Well, last week it was me with a sick family. This week, illness has hit the Zeeble household.
Yeah, I'm quite well, but I'm surrounded by illness. So I thought out of an abundance of caution, I probably shouldn't come into the office and make everyone else unwell too, particularly because it's a momentous week for the Crafty Pint and we have some pretty big news, don't we, James?
Yes, that's right. Talking of family, the Crafty Pint now has a sibling in the shape of the Full Measure. New publication that went live this week, something that I guess we've been dropping hints about to varying degrees, certainly in recent weeks. I'd say greater than hints in recent weeks, but certainly for a while. So this is, I guess, a new website that's attempting to do for the world of Australian spirits, what we've been doing for the world of Australian craft beer for the last 16 years. It's actually gone live 16 years, pretty much the day since the Crafty Pint went fully live, and yeah, pretty exciting times. There's not just the online publication, but also a podcast. We've actually shared the introductory podcast episode across both the Crafty Pint and the Full Measure platforms this week. But yeah, it's been in some ways a long time coming, and we've got great hopes for it as well.
Yes, definitely. So hopefully by now you might have spotted the episode that went out on Tuesday this week. There's a bit of an introduction episode with myself, James, and Luke McCarthy. He'll be steering all things spirits. And from then on Tuesdays, we'll have a news wrap. And then on every second Friday, there'll be a longer form interview, I guess more like the Thursday Crafty Pint interview with a guest. So that's the sort of coming schedule.
That's right. You know, we didn't have enough things to juggle just with the Crafty Pint and the Crafty Pint podcast, so we thought we'd best throw a second publication and twice, an even more frequent podcast into the mix as well. But yeah, jump online at thefullmeasure.com.au to have a look at that, and you'll find the Full Measure podcast across all the usual platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc., etc.
Importantly, though, we're not slowing down with Crafty Pint coverage at all. We'll have the same news, the same interviews and all those things every single week as we always have. Although one bit of a change for the coming month is you're not going to hear my voice because I'm getting married this weekend, and then we're heading straight on our honeymoon to Italy. So
when you say we, you mean yourself and Courtney, yeah. Not you and me, obviously. we have a very close working relationship, but I'm already taken, unfortunately.
Yes, definitely. Me and my partner, Courtney, are getting married. And then we're off on our honeymoon. And so, yeah, you're not going to hear me for a little while, but it's not like there's been some kind of big takeover and I've been replaced by a spirit riding AI machine or anything like that. I'm just enjoying a very long holiday.
Well, you say that now, there could well be an AI bot sat in your seat by the time you get back from Italy. But yeah, have a wonderful time, Will. Looking forward to the wedding at the weekend. I'm sure you will have an awesome time over in Italy. But before you head away, you've been racking up a few more articles before you head off, including one that we ran at the start of the week, which I guess is a pretty crucial topic right now. Like, things are still pretty challenging out there, especially in the wholesale space for brewers and I guess all drinks producers. And so you chatted to a couple of people who have got, I guess, a long history in sales who have had sort of fresh ideas about how to go about potentially finding your market and increasing your, or at least maintaining your sales in the current climate.
Yeah, definitely. So I chatted with Lockie Barter and Viren Goodry. Viren spent a long time at Stone and Wood. He ended up being national sales manager and left a few years after the sale to Lion. He's recently launched Paradiso Supply Co. With a different approach to sort of working and collaborating with a number of different independent drinks companies, breweries and distilleries to get their sales, to sort of act as their sales effectively. And Lockie started Lemonade, which is a app that sort of works to integrate a huge amount of sales function. Basically, the idea is to free up a lot of sales time. So you spend less time planning where you're going and more time actually selling. And I kind of felt like with these two people who've been in the industry for some time, both launching things in quick succession, I felt, how do we cover it? And I just wanted to touch base on the two of them about both what they're seeing in the market at the moment, what they think are sort of long-standing problems people have, but also I asked for their did we call them 3 keys to success or 3 golden rules or something like that? I never quite worked out exactly what they were, but 3 key things they thought never actually do change in sales. And I thought it was really interesting that both of them said, listen, was important. Those were the one point that crossed over. So both, I do think that's an important thing for sales, but it makes me think they've probably seen some pretty shocking, maybe fresh-faced reps on the road that sort of walk into bottle shops or bars and just won't shut the hell up.
No, it's great. It seems to have a good response online already as well. So jump online there. We'll include a link to that in the show notes. Aside from that, we've got a couple of new listings going up on the site this week. Pretty different operations. We've got Saltline Brewing in WA. We did a piece on, I guess, the new owners take over what had been South Camp Brewery a few weeks ago. Jono's been back in, sampled all the beers. Now they've got a whole bunch of them on tap. So we'll include a link to that. That's down in Dunsborough. And there seems to be a lot of excitement around what's happening there at Saltline. And very different to that, also, we should have a listing live this week for the Free House in Collingwood. Again, that was one that we sort of broke the story on back in January, I think it was, Will. This is Two Bays venue in Collingwood. 100% gluten-free, a heap of their beers on tap, plus some other drinks. Absolutely everything they're building is gluten-free. As someone with a celiac daughter, it's always really encouraging to see people going down this route. I think if you're planning to go out, and every time you do so, you have to check ahead, and you have to call and check on, do you have separate fries, all this kind of thing. I think it becomes, you get used to it, but it becomes quite frustrating with people that have to deal with that. So it's awesome to have a place that people can go to, have a wide selection of award-winning beers, cocktails, food, everything. So very excited to see that when I head along for the media launch the night before this podcast goes live.
And maybe you'll run into someone there, James, because this person does pop up at quite a few industry events. Lindsy Greig, who we finally got to join us on the Crafty Pint Podcast.
That's right, yeah, Lindsay, she's joined us in this very studio before with her HPA hat on to talk about pairing HPAs, some single hop beers produced by Rocky Ridge when they were doing a bit of celebration of their new hops a while ago. But yeah, Lindsay's had a whole number of roles in and around the beer industry for a number of years and done a fair bit of beer travel as well, especially as she's now the New Zealand rep for Hop Products Australia, HPA. So she joined us for a chat about all that stuff.
Yeah, it was great to have her on. I've known Lindsay for a long time. We're really great mates, and I love the way she talks about beer, communicates beer. It's really interesting to get her insights on the New Zealand market as well. Someone who used to be there, and now she's been brewing back in Australia. Now she's selling Australian hops to New Zealand. She's got a really fascinating role in the beer world, but also a fascinating way of thinking about the industry too.
Yeah, for sure. So that's coming up after the break. Before then, and I guess for the last time for a few weeks, Will, until we see you again at the end of September.
Well, maybe you want to wish me well on my honeymoon, and at the wedding, you can do so by emailing podcast@craftypint.com. Our producer, Matt, will save those regards for me when I get back. You can also like, subscribe, comment on the Crafty Pint, however you get your podcasts. And James, if people want to engage with the Full Measure, how would they go about that?
Yes, well, you can. You'll find that on all of the main podcast platforms as well. The handle we're using for there and for socials for the Full Measure is Full Measure Mag. So FULLMEASUREMAG. So you should be able to find that on all the key social platforms and podcast platforms. Again, if you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, rate, review, tell your mates about it, send links to people who are into Aussie spirits. We want to get people excited about this world, as we have done with Australian craft beer over the years. It's we're excited about it. We've been putting a lot of time and effort into it, so now we need people to get behind it.
Enjoy the chat. Cheers.
Returning this October, Grainstock is a truly unique conference created for the brewing, distilling and baking industries, and you're invited to be part of the experience. Held at the stunning Whitten Malthouse in the Riverina, attendees will be able to take part in grainfield tours, a technical symposium, trade show, live demonstrations and sensory tastings, networking with growers, maltsters, brewers, distillers, bakers and industry suppliers from across Australia and beyond. Even better, if you're a brewer or distiller and able to supply beer or spirits to be featured at the event, you'll be eligible for a complimentary all-access conference pass and return bus transport from selected capital cities. Check it all out at grainstock.com.au and hit the Fields and Ferment tab for details on the industry conference.
Registrations for CIBD 2027 are now open. Held in Brisbane from the 15th to the 18th of March 2027, the 39th edition of the Chartered Institute of Brewers and Distillers Convention is a must-attend for every forward-thinking brewery and distillery. This year's theme is Brewing and Distilling, the Adaptive Future. Resilience, Relevance, Reinvention. Celebrating innovation and craftsmanship, the convention brings together professionals from across the Asia-Pacific region and beyond to share knowledge, explore new ideas, and strengthen the connections that make our industry so collaborative and compelling. From match to mastery, the future of our industry will be defined not by volume alone, but by value, quality, adaptability, and bold leadership. This convention is an opportunity for attendees to contribute to that future together. Don't miss your chance to be a part of the 39th CIBD Asia Pacific Convention in Brisbane. Book now at cibd2027.com.au.
Lindsay, welcome to the Crafty Pint Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks. It's so nice to be here, Will.
To be back here again.
And Crafty, and back
here. We've been here with you once before.
Yeah.
On HPA Hoppy Business at the time then as well.
Yes. Bit of a different business time, one. But I'm so glad you guys are having me on. Thank you.
And we may still
I'm
have
so
snacks.
scared. Snacks.
We may still have snacks as part of this discussion, yes.
Spoiler, before we get into the snacks, do you want to tell us a little bit about what your role at HPA involves?
Sure. So my name's Lindsy Greig, which you've already introduced me, probably.
But it's still Lindsy Greig.
It's still Lindsy Greig.
Since the intro, which is good to know.
Great. I'm still Lindsy Greig, and I am the New Zealand sales rep for Hop Products Australia. So I sell Aussie hops and the Barthos portfolio. So US hops, German hops, and all of our advanced hop products to New Zealand. New Zealand is my sales territory, although I live here in Melbourne.
So what's it like selling Australian hops? New Zealand, they have their own hops. How's it sort of feel being over there? Are you in enemy territory?
Well, it's interesting. It's, so New Zealand does have their own hops. There are a lot of hop growers in New Zealand, and it's a very different kind of market over there. I think that's what I find really interesting because of plant and food research and because of IPs coming up. All these different growers have started growing things like Nelson Sauvin, etc. Whereas with HPA, we have our own varietals. So nobody else can grow Galaxy. That's ours. Nobody else can grow Luna. Nobody else can grow Ella. Those are our single varieties. So I guess the point of difference is you can only get Galaxy from me. I'm the Galaxy gatekeeper in New Zealand. But we have different terroir as well. The hops are different fundamentally. So it's been really interesting, I would say, to be over there in such a crazy hop forward industry. It's a challenge, but it's fun. And I love the New Zealand industry. And I do think that Aussie hops have a place over there, especially if we're looking at, replacing some American varietals. I think that Aussie hops can really step in as far as like Vic's Secret with a lot of pine and dank characters, high bitterness, and high oils as well. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm going. I'm not trying to compete with NZ hops, but trying to like offer a point of difference.
And what does it look like, not day to day, but week to week, month to month? Like how often are you in New Zealand? Like when you're over there? Are you just, do you pick a part of the country and visit a whole bunch of breweries in one go? Like what's the...
Yeah, well, I've been in the role for 13 months now, 14 months. My first year was hectic, so I kind of just hit the ground running. I guess the benefit of me coming into this role is that I lived in New Zealand before I lived in Australia, and I worked in beer in New Zealand before I came over here. So a lot of the people that I knew from then are still there. They have their own breweries, still involved in the beer industry. But I try to center it around events where I can see a lot of people at one time, and then I hit up a lot of breweries. So in my first year, I visited like over 74 breweries in person in New Zealand. And some of them really far away, like Short Jaw.
Shout out Short Jaw.
But I think I spent roughly 100 days in NZ last year, which is a lot. So And I tend to tack on weekends because I have so many friends over there. So every 4 to 6 weeks is what my contract says. But I tack on weekends, use personal time, and go see friends and family. So
how's it go with tapping up brewers at events? Do you have to get in before a certain time, in the day to actually have meaningful conversations, or can you actually seal more deals once they've had a couple more drinks?
Oh, shit. I'm supposed to be sealing deals. Oh my God. Forgot about that part. No, I think the important thing is showing up and showing support. And, this time last year, Beervana's coming up again. It'll already happened by the time this comes out. But this time last year, going to Beervana, there were still a lot of breweries I didn't know. So I was just kind of going up to stands and being like, hi, I'm Lindsay. I don't know. Here's a Hydrolite. And running off because sales isn't my background. So I'm pretty awkward probably doing that stuff. But yeah, I kind of go up, introduce myself, and then I'm like, hey, can I come by? Can I come see your kit? And they've been really receptive and been like, yeah, come by, have a conversation. I don't think it's good to have really important technical conversations at events. Maybe other people are better than I am, but I'm not going to remember. I'm not going to remember the details. I don't think that's the time and place. And there's so many other things going on. But I do think it's important to show up, show support, try their beers, have a casual conversation, build the relationships, and then weasel my way in to see their kits and have a more serious chat.
And you were in New Zealand working in beer, been in Australia brewing for a long time, and now you've gone back. What sort of surprised you or about going back and realizations? We probably often consider New Zealand might be basically the same industry as Australia, right?
It's so different. No, I think that's a really common misconception with Australians, because a lot of Australians haven't spent a lot of time in New Zealand, which I think is really sad. New Zealand's a completely different industry and it operates in different ways. I mean, just the way the breweries are set up, so many of them just have 2-vessel systems. And I think kind of the standard we see here is 3. Even if it's a small kit, you have 3 vessels. But there it's 2 vessels. They'll still be doing over 1 million liters a year on a 2-vessel system, which to me is just mind-boggling. And it's a lot more of Kiwi ingenuity, and their kits are very much like old dairy equipment that they're just making work. And they're putting out amazing beers over there. So I think that's one of the biggest things is they're not a schmick and shiny, a lot of the breweries I've seen, but they're doing good, really good stuff. They also get their hands on, they're so used to having deep conversations with hop growers because that's where they're at. They're in New Zealand, and hop harvest in March and that time of year is such a big part of it. So I think NZ breweries are really thoughtful when it comes to their hop selection, and they're also really proud of their local ingredients. I think that's something that really, to me, differentiates them from Australia. The very, very deep pride in, using Gladfield malt and using NZ hop suppliers. Yeah.
So how do you get them over the line to try some of your products?
I'm like, can I see your kit? I mean, it's a point of difference. And like I said, it really is. There's still a lot of US hops floating around in the market.
Presumably there'd be a number of breweries over there that would have been using Galaxy and some other hops for years as well. There'd be, some core range beers out there, or some, I guess, iconic beers out there that you can refer to and say, these guys have been using Galaxy or Ella or Vic Secret for a while.
Yeah. So up until a few years ago, we didn't have cold storage in New Zealand. So breweries were having to order direct from Australia. Now we have cold storage in New Zealand. So it's made it a lot easier for breweries to get into Galaxy. But I think outside of Galaxy, people don't know the rest of our hops. Mm-hmm. They don't know Ella. They don't know Eclipse. They don't know Enigma and Vic Secret, So it is kind of being you have these U.S. hops, which I also sell U.S. hops. Citra, Mosaic, Simcoe, everybody knows those. But then people are like, yeah, but what is Ella? Mm-hmm. What does Ella do? What is Enigma? What? I know nothing about it. And it's man, that's one of our major hops over here. And there's a lot of Aussie brewers who can, very familiar with Enigma, but they're not over there as familiar. So just trying to get it in the hands of the right people and, encourage them to adopt.
Yeah, it's such a funny space because I always think of Enigma as such a great Pilsner hop, like modern Pilsner hop, but New Zealand's brewing industry is so built around modern hoppy Pilsners that
NZ
works.
Pilsners.
Yeah, NZ Pilsners. It works so well in that industry, but you've also got so many other hops to play with too.
Yeah, but with that as well, I mean, it does come to me, and I guess how I'm looking at selling hops. I'm such a baby salesperson. I really think it's the high alphas and the really high oils. That's something Aussie hops do have. So less is more kind of thing, you know. And in this economic climate, it's a good kind of thing to think about is like, what are you actually using? Are you being considerate about it? And are you making sure you're getting the most out of every product that you're using? And I don't think any industry, like there shouldn't be one hop grower, hop supplier for any industry that just makes boring beer. You need to be able to layer and contrast things, you know. Enigma is such a great supporting hop. I wish more people would kind of just play around with adding just a little bit to their hop bill, you know, like 15%, because it can really make a difference.
And talking of, you were talking about this sort of the more sort of basic rustic setups, or, you know, the 2 vessel setups there. Any highlights? I remember when Will and I were over for the NZ Hop Harvest in March. I think the best sort of collection of beers I had in any one place was the tasting paddle at Renegade Brewing in Christchurch.
Yeah, right.
And
That was a very old school brewery. Set up as well, right?
Kiwi ingenuity, man.
Yeah.
Kiwi
Well, it was like a
ingenuity.
real, you know, your classic brew pub in like the you know, the 2-story building with the mezzanine was full of all sorts of reclaimed stuff, whatever. But his kit looked like it had been repurposed from a spaceship that Wallace and Gromit would have taken to the moon when they're going cheese hunting. And he was up there on top doing everything himself and then getting behind the bar. But the beers were fantastic.
Yeah.
And it was so rudimentary looking, you know.
Yeah, and it does, his space especially, I think, really reminds me of American brewing. So I started brewing in the States in like 2014, 2015 in New Orleans. And it was very that brew pub vibe where brewers were also bartenders. So the first brewery I worked at and brewed at, you know, I would be back at doing a transfer in the back. We'd go ahead and open up the garage door and someone would come in and have to yell back and be like, hey, can I get a beer? I'd go serve them and go back to doing a transfer. Like, that is to me what really built the craft brewing industry in the US, really brought beer to where it was that very like being able to see the person making the beer, but they're also serving you or they're sitting at the bar. And it was like the accessibility to the creators, to the makers, to the ones doing the work. Yeah, his space is really good. Other spaces, I mean, other spaces that I love, I do have to shout out to Altitude. They have a really great spot on the water in Queenstown. And like Queenstown is humming right now. It's insane. Christchurch, I love Three Boys Brewery. I think every time you go in there, you can really see the regulars there. A lot of the breweries just have such a good, more community feel, I think, probably in New Zealand. Just across the board.
Probably New Zealand in its entirety, you could say that, right?
Yeah.
It's just a bit more of a chilled out place and more relaxed and more of a community.
Yeah, and people are still going to like support their local because they love their local. And I love going into any brewery where it's like, oh man, no, the people who come here all the time, they feel like they are owners. You know, they might not have shares in it, but they're like, it is their brewery, you know, that kind of love, that kind of pride.
Yeah, and you mentioned your days brewing in the States, so sort of going back to the early days of Lindsay. So what was it first drew you into the world of beer and brewing?
Yeah, so I studied theater in college, musical theater. I always worked a bar job as an actor. That's what you do. I started working in where do I go? Where do I go back? I was always supposed to be an actor. I wasn't supposed to be a brewer. I've also always loved food and flavors, and I've always been interested in beer. I grew up on Boulevard Wheat. That was my holy grail beer that I grew up on in the States. So I'm from Southern Missouri originally. I loved that beer so much. And then pretty much anything Boulevard would make, I would try. So I was 21 and I was drinking bourbon barrel-aged quads. And when they put out their Love Child Sour series, I was like, I don't care. I'll drink it because it's Boulevard and I trust this brand and I love this brand. I ended up being in New Orleans. I moved there for the film industry. At the time, Louisiana had a big tax incentive, so it was easy to get on really big budget films in Louisiana as an actor. My agent essentially fired me. I lived 2 blocks from, because I gained weight from living in New Orleans. I lived
all those barrel-aged quads.
all those barrel-aged quads, all of the gumbo and jambalaya and fried food. But I lived 2 blocks from a craft brewery, a nano brewery called Courtyard Brewery. And at the same time my agent was firing me, I also managed a craft beer bar in the French Quarter with 40 Louisiana craft beers on tap. So this was 2014. This was right when Parish Brewing was getting up and going. The owner of the brewery that I live close to, he knew that I managed this craft beer bar, and I would go in a lot and talk to him about beer. I was really interested in the flavors, and I used to have people like blind pour me beers all the time just to see if I could figure out what they were. And his assistant brewer got injured. My agent fired me. I was like, I don't know what to do if I'm not going to be an actor. He's like, well, my brewer's out for 3 months. Do you want to brew? And I was like, I don't know anything about science, man. Like, I'm an actor. He's like, yeah, well, do you want to learn? And I was like, okay. And so he kind of just took me on.
Just bring a whole new meaning to the phrase from acting break a leg, but just break someone else's so you get away into the new industry.
Yeah. Oh, he had burns on the bottom of his feet. Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, it wasn't good. And it was a very it was a 350 liter kit. Like, it was essentially a giant homebrew thing. But at the time in New Orleans and in Louisiana, it was such a good time to be coming into beer. And I just loved going to beer events because people wouldn't, like, I was coming from film and theater, and going to those events were very different, I guess, when you're going to networking things. It's very like showmanship, whereas going to beer events, people just wanted to talk about what they were tasting. Like, and I was like, oh, wait, people just talk about, like, you guys just talk about like what you're tasting, like tasting food and eating food and drinking beer is like a good thing you can do. And so I got really into it. And then through a friend of a friend, it was Mardi Gras. I was at a 24-hour craft beer bar in New Orleans called Avenue Pub. This was early 2016. And the bartender there, I knew him quite well. It was like 3:00 in the morning. He was like, oh, after Mardi Gras, I'm moving to New Zealand. And I was like, I don't even know what New Zealand is. Like, what's that? And he's like, oh, New Zealand, I'm going to manage a craft beer bar in a beach town. I was like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. That sounds so cool. I want to do that. And he's like, well, you probably could. And I was like, no. I have a dog, I have a cat, I have a car, I have a 2-bedroom apartment. Like, nah. A few months went by. He messaged me and he's like, hey, if you're interested in moving to New Zealand, my boss, the guy who owns the company I work for, is in New Orleans right now. And I told him about you. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, I'll have him come by the brewery. I was working at Nola Brewery. I'd already moved to Nola Brewery at that time. He's like, I'll have him come by the brewery and say hi to you. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. Well, the day before, I was at Avenue Pub again. Parish Brewing Ghost of the Machine had just been released. I had like 6 pints of that probably for happy hour. And then sure enough, somebody walks up to me and is like, hey, the guy that owns the beer bars in New Zealand, he's actually here. he was going to come see you tomorrow, right? And I was like, yeah, I'll see him at the brewery tomorrow though. And they're like, oh no, I already told him I'd seen you. So I went up and talked to, his name's Evan, Evan King, who has Lumsden Freehouse and a few other venues in New Zealand. I went and talked to Evan, and Evan was like, yeah, if you want to come over, come on over. You can get a working holiday visa. I'll hire you. You live up in Mongafai. It's a beach bar.
Sounds like one of the lowest energy sort of job interviews and getting a job ever. Like, no effort on your part. It's just like, hey, come and work for us.
Yeah, it was so bizarre. And like, I went home and I was not sober, and I just booked a one-way flight to New Zealand.
Oh, it happened that quick.
Yeah, I was like, well, I guess I'm doing this. Like, maybe I'm a little bit of an impulsive person. But it was just such a foreign concept to me. I also thought that New Zealand was north of Australia. So I did think I was going
So you
someplace.
hadn't looked on a map by this stage. You're just like,
No.
Surely you've seen Lord of the Rings.
The stars are aligned.
Yeah, see, I didn't understand that till after I had already booked the flight. Somebody brought it up, and I was like, and I was talking to someone at the brewery. I was like, yeah, I'm moving to New Zealand. I'm going to manage a craft beer bar on the beach. And they were like, in New Zealand, Lindsay, that's so close to Antarctica. And I was like, what? What do you mean? And they're like, Lord of the Rings. And I was like, what? All of Lord of the Rings? The cold parts? Yeah. But I got there and I kind of fell in love with it. I was supposed to stay for 3 months, and then I was there for 1.5 years, but I wanted to be brewing again. And so I came to Australia to brew again.
Right. Was that a
Stomping Ground.
visa thing, or just more the job opportunities?
So I would have been able to get sponsorship through Evan, but it just would have been managing a beer bar. And I really wanted to be brewing. I didn't want to be it was great to get me over there. And initially I was like, yeah, 3 months, I can do this. But I really, really wanted to be brewing again. And yeah, Evan knew the folks. He knew Craig, who at the time was Gabs, because Gabs always does their after party at Lumsden, or they did, back in the day at Lumsden Free House in Auckland, and that was Evan's bar. Evan became friends with Craig. Craig was like, hey, Stomping Ground will hire you.
And that'd been
Come
pretty
on over.
And relatively early days of Stomping Ground as well, I guess.
Yeah, so that was, I came over here in March 2018.
Yeah.
So I started at the Tappy, and then I had to go get my visa extension. I came back and I went to Stomping Ground.
Well, if anyone is wondering who Craig is, he's our partnerships and advertising manager.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
if you'd like to take any advertising with Crafty Pint, you could do so during this break, which we'll now take. Cheers.
That was smooth.
Hey brewers, we've all been there. You've spent months perfecting a barrel-aged drop. You hand wax every bottle and are ready to ship when you realise you don't have the right packaging to ship your orders safely. That's where the legends at Packpal can help. Packpal's air column packaging eliminates the risk of breakage for your most premium products, saving you from the pain of customer complaints and costly refunds or replacements. Supplied flat and inflated in seconds, Packpal cuts manual packing time without adding extra weight to your freight bill, especially after the most recent Australia Post increase. Protect your hard work with Packpal custom designed packaging for your bottle, giving you complete peace of mind every time a box leaves the brewery. But don't take my word for it, test them on your own bottles for free. Get a free sample pack from Packpal today at packpal.com.au/sample. That's packpal.com.au/sample.
Welcome back. Hopefully you've all reached out to Craig and Lindsay. For you, moving from brewing into the supply side, what have been some of the biggest, lessons, challenges, learnings, discoveries?
Yeah. Well, after Stomping Ground, I actually worked for Beer 30 for 2.5 years, a brewery management software company, which was wild. Going from a very physical job with very real world consequences if you fuck something up. Am I allowed to cuss?
You get burnt feet.
Yeah.
Huh?
You get burnt feet.
Yeah, or, you could implode a tank. Things have consequences, and you see those, if you forget to pull hops off of a beer at the right time, you're going to get astringency and over-extraction. And, going from that to working for an American software company where I was the only one on this side of the world in my own house alone every day that was really hard. You don't get the satisfaction of task completion, physical activity. I miss not having to think about going to the gym because I was brewing and brewing was my gym. So doing that for 2.5 years, but I kind of felt I ended up doing digital experience and analytics on that. And I really loved user journey and stuff. I think that comes with my theater background. I love human psychology, and I love being in an app and seeing where people are going and what they're clicking on, and then trying to figure out why they're not clicking on something. That's just fun for me. And then, switching over to back in, I thought I was going to leave the beer industry before this job with HPA came up. HPA I've worked for loosely. I started doing snack pairings with them in 2021, but didn't come on full time till 1.5 years ago. Coming into a sales role, lessons, man, so many. capacity, I think, is a major one. I really hit the ground running, and I whenever I was in New Zealand, like I think there was 1 week where I did just an obscene like 25 meetings or something, and just trying to like really, and these were all like first meetings, so they're longer meetings, and I just came home and was like catatonic for like 2 weeks afterwards. So really learning and understanding what my capacity is in a sales role. Another lesson is how to sell, probably.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I'd always say, and Will's probably quite similar to me, as people from sort of a journalistic background, that sales isn't something that comes naturally to you. But then I've sort of sat in some sort of sales discussion meetings where people who love it, and you're like, it actually doesn't have to be a bad thing. Like, you're actually trying to help somebody and understand what they want, and then come up with a solution for them. We mentioned Craig. I've sat there in a meeting with Craig, and I'm like, this is really good. You're actually helping them. They might want to give us some money, but you're actually doing a good thing. And I just, as a journo, like, you almost feel like you're anti-sales, and you kind of have to just turn your thinking around and go, no, I'm actually not just there's a good thing happening here.
Yeah, that's a really challenging part, and I think I'm still learning it. And HPA invests a lot in their team. Like, everyone on the sales team is brewing backgrounds.
Mm-hmm. You've got really quite the team there. Like, you look at all the people in the roles across the business, they've all done very substantial things in various
none
roles.
of them are brewing, really. That's the travesty.
Maybe there's some fantastic homebrews. Maybe have the annual gathering. Everyone brings along their homebrew.
The annual gathering. I can't homebrew. I was never a homebrewer before I was a professional brewer.
350 was your smallest brew length.
And like I couldn't do it. I can't do a homebrew setup. I want the chemicals. I want the thermometers. I want all of the kit and caboodle.
Where is my board to flick switches on?
Yeah, I want a good heat exchanger. Like, I want temperature control. I much respect for home brewers, but it is not. It is anxiety. So a lot of lessons. I think just working. Just brewing. Anyone who goes from brewing to supply side, we all kind of. Even when I went into Beer 30, we all have there's like a knowing kind of conversation. Sam from Ventani, I think, is one of them who like, you've done it, and I've made the switch. You've made the switch. Yeah. How are you going? There's a bunch of us who have been brewers who have now become supply side, and it has been amazing. The community there and being able to talk to people and just get a coffee and kind of talk things out, how to adjust and how to like score ourselves, I think is a thing as well. Like, how do I know I'm doing a good job if I'm not physically making a product?
Yeah, it's amazing because it is, such a small group of you, really. It's great that the collegiate nature that you often associate with breweries working together sort of carries through on that supply side, because the rest of the team don't necessarily in HQ understand what it's like or what it's like being on the road, and I'm sure you're running into each other all the time and that kind of thing too. Yeah,
and it's great. Like, I actually love competitors. I love people who have been brewers who are on the supply side, and we're all friendly and we just have a camaraderie there.
Did you find it helps that you've been on the other side as well? You've probably had people come to you trying to sell their products to you when you were a brewer, so you kind of understand what mindset you or your colleagues at Stomping Ground might have been in when you were being approached, and you know what you may have liked or not liked?
So I would say at Stomping Ground, the benefit there is Ash is the head brewer. So if we saw sales reps come in, we would just dodge them. I'll go get Asher.
Hide behind his tool frame.
I'll go get Asher. That being said, Fraser from Convoy, he was and Phil, HPA, were like the two sales reps that they would come in. I remember one time Fraser on like a really hot day just brought us some Gatorades. And like just for all the brew team, and that was such a nice thing. And he just like brought them in and then left. I was like, you can do sales like that? So yeah, I didn't really have to deal with it a lot at Stompo, which was another learning thing, learning contracts and how hop contracts work, but also learning the agricultural side of the business, I think, is probably the biggest learning curve for me, really understanding the agricultural aspect of hops and how things work and why they work the way they work. Yeah.
Nice. And as someone who's on the road a lot, you know, how are you finding managing that ever difficult work-life balance between non-stop events on the road, working from home as well? It's pretty, don't want to put words in your mouth, but I imagine that's pretty diabolical. As someone who's just moved into an office, I'm finding it better already.
Yeah, well, and I was just saying earlier how hard it can be working from home, because there's days where you don't talk to anybody except for your cats. I'm so lucky I have 2 amazing cats that support me, Laszlo and Lopi. Lopi is a desk cat. She likes to be on a pillow on the desk. Being on the road in New Zealand, it is starting to feel like a parallel life a bit. Like there's...
You go through some sort of portal and now I'm
You got your New Zealand friends. And
Yeah, and it's a different industry, right? Yeah. And like, I was so involved in the industry here for such a long time and really like deep in it. And now I don't really see any of the people here over there.
Or you see them in a different way that you would have seen, but you're still, you're Lindsay, we know from the beer industry. Whereas over there, you're Lindsay, HPA, Lindsay.
Yeah. It's a strange, and then coming back to Australia, it's so weird. Like at NZIPA at Rocky Ridge, 3 of my customers were over here, and the whole time I was just like, this is so weird. Like, you guys are here. I'm here too. Like, it was just...
Yeah, they've crossed over some sort of, forbidden, demarcation in your existence.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. It's bizarre. I don't know if I'm managing it well. I don't think I am yet. I'm working on it. I'm aware of the things that, I'm aware that when I get home after a trip and I have that like, whoa, I should probably stay at home for a little while and not overload my schedule. Because I love to overload my schedule. I just love it. So yeah.
Well, you need some sort of routine going to Australia. So midway through the flight, it's like, okay, I now need to sort of go through some sort of, like
meditation, chanting,
maybe
cleansing.
not chanting, but who knows? There could be something. It's like, okay, and now I'm through. I'm now into. I am now Kiwi Lindsay for the next 10 days, and then I shall return home.
But I'm trying to figure out how I can integrate the two. I think is more of the.
It's getting very metaphysical here.
Yeah. How do I integrate? Yeah. It feels like a different life. Yeah. Yeah.
And had you mentioned before, that first trip over there, 25 first meetings, which I'd imagine you probably like, who did I actually speak to?
Oh, 100%.
What conversations I have. So how have you, sort of managed that as someone who's coming into sales with the technical knowledge and the experience that HPA, I'm sure, wanted from you and the personality they want to get out there, but then not having that side of things? Like, have you managed? Is it from conversations with the likes of Sam and Michael, other people on your team, or is it you just had to go, this is how it's going to work for me?
A bit of both, right? Because we're all different people and we all manage things very different ways. Being able to talk to Michael, but also our WA sales rep Brad, who has to travel to he does South Australia as well, so he kind of has that dichotomy of the two. I mean, all the boys have been so helpful. I really do love the team. I love them so much. They've all been so helpful and so willing to chat about managing life on the road. The biggest difference for me is just that I'm doing international trips all the time, which it's not a big trip, it's a 4-hour flight, but it's still international security, coming back, going through customs, like all of these things that are very disassociating. A new car every time I go over
Constant
there.
currency as well. Conversion in your head, I imagine.
I don't even think of that. I don't even.
Have you learned when we flew back from New Zealand? I thought we'll get the earliest flight back on the Monday because it was a couple $100.
Oh no!
And we realised that we actually had to be up had to be at the airport for 1 a.m. to catch up. Or was it? It was
1 a.m.
ridiculous.
Melbourne time. I guess
1 a.m. Melbourne time to get back, and we're like, this. We didn't think this through at all.
Sorry. Yes, that is a lesson I've learned, which I was doing at the beginning. I was like, well, I need to take the 6 a.m. flight out. I need to get out. And no, I actually don't. I'm also one of my biggest flexes in this role is how casual I've become in airports. Like I keep pushing it to see how far
I can
hate go.
That. I don't even like hearing about this.
No, it's gotten so good. It's like one of my favorite things. Like how late can I leave my house? How late can I get to, like how close can I cut it? And I think, you know, because I travel a lot, being able to get things like status where you get easy check-in, like I get quick check-in, whatever, drop my bags. That is like such a blessing. But yeah, I do, even in New Zealand, I'm like, I know all the airports now, and I'm like, oh, I'm in Christchurch, like an hour max. I'm going to get there for an international flight. For a domestic flight, 20 minutes, you know, like you push it.
We saw their sort of slightly more laissez-faire approach to security.
There's
The lack of
airports
security.
where you don't have to go through security. It blew my mind. That was,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, when am I going to get checked?
This was just explained to me why. I never understood why sometimes you do. So you only have to go through security if you're flying to another international airport within New Zealand. Right. So if you're flying from Wellington to Christchurch, you have to go through security for a domestic flight. But if you're flying from Wellington to Nelson, you don't have to go through security.
That's what we found. We got on the flight from Auckland to Nelson, and once we took off, Will just goes, "Did you notice anything different?" I'm like, yeah.
I've got all this dynamite strapped to my body.
Yeah, I was like, well, it's just a small plane. There's only one person in the cabin crew. He's like, no. Did anyone check your bags before we got on the flight? I'm like, no. That's the first time in like 15 years or longer no one's ever checked my bag.
As someone
in
who
between flights.
never flew before 9/11, it's kind of like it just really blew my mind that you could go through an airport.
I felt like starting to smoke, you know.
I think it's great. It's so good. I love it. And I love, like, even PK, my old boss from Beer 30, the first time we went to New Zealand together, he was freaking out about that as well. He was like texting me, you know, in American. He's
yeah.
I didn't have to go through security? What do you mean I don't have to go through security? What? Is this even safe? And it's like, yeah, man, you're fine. Like,
It's New Zealand.
It's just New Zealand, man.
As someone who's been involved in communicating beer for a long time, I feel like I might have watched one of your TikToks before we even knew each other.
No.
No, surely.
No, I didn't start TikToking until 2020. We met before 2020.
Oh, okay, right.
Maybe there was
Before
a
we
really,
were
maybe a really
Before we were
evolved
friendly.
reel or something.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
Talking about beer styles and doing education things. Obviously, your relationship with HBA goes back a long way. Talking about enjoying these things better. How do you look at the way we communicate craft beer at the moment as an industry? Broad question, I know, and a few landmines for you, maybe.
Yeah, it's such an interesting time. And not just like, let's just not say craft beer, let's just say beer as a whole, right? Like, and drinking and all of this, and human psychology and how we interact with each other and how we interact online, and the way we used to, like, I don't TikTok anymore. I stopped doing TikTok when they started flooding it with ads, and then the ads started being AI ads, and I was like, I don't want to do this. And then there's this thing in the industry where you're seeing a lot of people try to copy and try to imitate those who have been really, really successful with their socials. Like Mountain Culture does an insanely good job with their socials, but that is like them. That's their brand. If you know them personally, you're like, yeah, that checks out. I think there's people trying to copy what works, even though it doesn't work for them and their team and their personalities, but trying to force something to communicate with an audience that doesn't read well, or maybe it just doesn't read well to me because I'm a brat and I have a theater background. I don't know.
But you could probably copy that across, even especially during maybe sort of the late 2010s and the COVID era. People going, that's those styles of beer are selling really well for those people. Let's do it. And it doesn't either fit for their brand, or they just can't do it as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so maybe, maybe it's not just me. You know.
Like a super hoppy brewery suddenly being like, let's just make super sour barrel aged things, and you know they don't have those barrels going anymore. Like every brewery under the sun was like, oh, barrel aged beers are popular. We should get some barrels, and it's like, should you though? Like, do you need to, or should you like stay to what's true to you? I think that's just across the board. We're not, and there's so much information coming at us from everywhere, and there's so much AI information. I've had to call out someone recently because, and it was like a hop farm in the US that I reached out to because I was like, hey, this AI slide that you're using is not, like, it doesn't really line up. They were like talking about use it in these hoppy styles, or use it in an IPA and a West Coast IPA and a hazy and a pale ale and other hoppy IPAs. And it's like that, like, some things just aren't being checked. It's so hard. I don't know. I think building a community, we need to be communicating in person again. We've lost so many events, as you guys know. Like, we've lost events and events with consumers. And I think that's really unfortunate because I know in my beginning craft beer journey, that's how I connected with, that's how I kind of fell in love with it, was like going to these events and talking to the brewers and
not just learning, but feeling their passion, I guess, as well. You know, feeling the emotion they put into something as well as the liquid.
Yeah, and then them being like, just try this. This is what I get from it. And it's like, oh, thank you. I can't remember the last time somebody offered me something. I was like, I'm getting a bit of like this and this and this from it. Like, try it. And it's, you know, like being willing to, we're missing events. We're missing connections with punters, with people, with the youths, with our own generation. I really would like to see small scale events coming back that are really focused on educating, but not in like a panel or lecture way, just in like a really just homegrown kind of sitting down at a dinner table, you know, having some beers. We should get
more of our blind tastings going. But, you know, if someone does want to get in touch with Craig again and help us fund bringing back our blind because those, like, we did that one for the NZ IPA.
What a great turnout.
It was sold out, bigger numbers than we probably normally do for one of those.
Massive.
But then, you know, Chris from Smith's Craft Beer House, who started that in New Zealand, he's like, can you come and do this for us in New Zealand next year? He goes, well, you know, we really think about looking after all the producers, all the brewers and their teams that come down, and all the consumers have a great time because they come and drink all these amazing beers, but we don't actually do anything for the consumers. And I'm like, we love doing this. It's just, it's so much effort and it's a tough time in the minute to have the resources to do it. But those kind of things, whenever we've done them, you do see this amazing reaction because it's like learning, but fun and a bit of surprise element to it, you know? And I think, there's so many conversations with people who've been around the industry long enough going, oh, there should be more education, there should be more opportunities to do this. And I guess maybe it's, for a lot of businesses, it's like, but they're also going, we've just got to make it through, you know, so.
Yeah, and I get that too. I do, like, how can you make it through if you're not connecting with consumers and the people who are buying your beer, right? Like, it's a circle, you know, like you have to, and I even think as a hop supplier, like, there was a time where Citra was such a buzzword and consumers knew what Citra was and like, well, why? Like, how? Why? Like, people wanted to buy the beers that had Citra. If they're buying more beers that have Citra, more brewers are using Citra, more Citra is sold, Citra becomes what it is today. Like, how do we bring that back? Because I think that's something that's really been lost.
Yeah, so how do we bring it back, Lindsay?
Well, you've been on this mission, I
like
think,
seeing,
you know, bring a light-hearted, fun approach to beer and food pairing.
Yeah.
And your passion for snacks.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the industry needs more of. How far back does it go for you, though?
What, beer and snacks?
Yeah.
Like, well, so I've been eating snacks my whole life.
Unbelievable.
I know. Yeah. I came out of the womb just snacking away. I grew up in southern Missouri and I grew up with a bunch of brown food, and like just remembering the first time even having like Mexican food or the first time I had sushi, I was so curious. I've always loved trying new food and new flavors, and I'm one of those people who goes, when I travel, the first thing I do is go to a grocery store in a new country and I just walk up and down the aisles and I look at things.
What's this?
What's this? I'm gonna buy this. And then I buy it and I open it and I eat 2 bites and I'm like, that's awful. Or I'm like, yum. And if it's awful, I just don't eat anymore. But like, I love trying things. I love trying snacks, and beer has flavors, and I just think those two things together, like, beer is meant to be enjoyed in a social situation, and with food, like, what's better than having a good dinner or meal, or even just like a nice cheese board with a bunch of beers with your friends, like, or new people. It's such a way to bond. We need more people having beers and snacks intentionally as well. And it's a way to think and get into your, like, flavor is so subjective, but for me, and flavor is tied to our emotional memories, right? And I do feel privileged having a theater background because I have easy access to my emotional memories. So flavors really trigger like intense responses for me, and that's how I'm able to like remember things. And when I get a really good pairing, like, it's just so cool that you can be like, I have this thing that tastes like this, but when I put it with this, it becomes a different thing. Like, how crazy is that?
And I guess the good thing about doing it with snacks as well is like you can get people to think about that and think about flavour and think about what their palate is telling their brain in a way that if you said, hey, do you want to come for this beer and food pairing dinner? They might be like, that sounds way too wanky for me.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like, just try these. I've got
accessible.
three different bags of chips.
Yeah.
And I've got 3 different beers. Everyone likes chips. Everyone likes beer. Just give it a go. And you'd be like, oh, this is different.
Or one beer, 3 different chips.
Yeah.
Because that's the best way to be like, okay, wait. That's when you start to pick up the fundamentals, right? So if you have one beer and you have something sour, something sweet, and something bitter or spicy, get those 3 elements, different textures or the same texture, and just vary the flavor. You'll start to be like, oh, wait, why does this not, why isn't this as enjoyable as this other one is? Like, and you start to kind of figure these things out. I think that's the best way to go about it. That's like how beer and snack pairing started as a like actual concept and something that I would eventually get paid to do was in 2019, after judging the Independent Beer Awards, we were at Carwin Cellars. There was a group of us. It was like Tiff Waldron. But specifically, I know Cassie O'Neill and myself, they had just gotten a bunch of hers, like American Cheetos kind of in like the jalapeno and different flavors. And I think we were having like a barrel-aged imperial stout, and we were like, let's get a bunch of bags of the hers and see which one works best. And at the time I was working at Molly Rose, and Nick Sandry wanted to start doing events. And I was like, can we do a Crispin beer, like pantry pairings, Crispin beers? And so for that one, we had 5 or 6 different breweries bring a beer, and they got to pair it with a chip. And it became a competition, and it was such a good turnout. Like, I think we had like 50 or 60 people come to that one. It was amazing. Like, it's such an easy concept. It's so accessible. It doesn't require a lot of money. Everybody snacks. Yeah. I hope everybody snacks. I was so sad if you don't snack. If you don't snack, fix that. Like,
what is the point?
What's the point?
And back to what you were saying there about, if someone, let's say they did have a beer and tried 3 different types, even if they don't get to the point of going, why does that not work? The fact that they realize that one works better than another, even that's enough, I think, to surely spark some sort of curiosity to go, okay, maybe I should think about what I'm putting in my mouth, whether it is a drink or whether it is food, like, because something's different there. And whether you'd want to go and explore it further, it's just the fact that it is different,
Yeah, and it's mindful. I mean, mindful eating. I'm a big fan of like mindful eating, because if you can't, life is so hard right now. Like, the world is so hard and scary and a dumpster fire in so many ways. If you can't take as much joy from little everyday things as possible, I just want to enable people to be like, oh, you know what, this is actually really good, and you can easily do that at home on a no budget with whatever you have in your cupboard.
How does the snack scene in New Zealand compare to the snack scene in Australia? You've got your previous time there, and you've been back more recently. Have you found any real killer Kiwi snacks that outperform anything here, or from your childhood?
Oh, I mean, from my childhood, it's so hard. American stuff is like I've almost I'm almost American snacks are almost too sweet for me now. I've acclimated to this side of the world where I go back and I'm like, corn syrup. Oh my god, why is it in everything? I do think America's great at doing really big, intense flavors. We're just a big, intense country. I mean Velveeta, but I won't talk too long on Velveeta here. Shelf-stable dairy product from the United States. It's amazing. Look it up. That's a great snack. But in New Zealand, there's like certain things I always bring back. Ginger nuts is one of them. It's just like a ginger biscuit that's really, really yummy. Always different kinds of chocolates, whatever I can find. For a while it was rations, but you can get them here now. They were in Aldi recently. Rations are good. They're like cheddar bacon. They're delicious. New Zealand does really good potato chips.
They do. They're just cut thicker, like
Heartland, all of them.
They're
all
so
the
much more
chips.
premium.
Yeah, and I do think to an extent, a lot of food in NZ is still quite premium. That's made in New Zealand. Like anything you buy in a grocery store, it's expensive right now. Like they're really getting hit with inflation hard. It's gnarly. But I do find like their grocery store food that's made in New Zealand is like of higher quality than it generally is here, and here is way higher quality than the US. But yeah, NZ does really good potato chips. Also kiwi onion dip, duh. So good. Oh, I should have brought you some. Oh, damn it. Oh my God, I could have made that at home.
We'll have to get you back on for another session at some point. And what about favourite pairings then? Do you have any specific like NZ snack, NZ beer pairings or Australian equivalents? You absolute. If someone's listening or watching and you're wanting to give them the easiest insight into what gets you going, is go and put these two things together and you will understand why I'm so passionate about this.
Because one thing, if you can get your hands on a Belgian double Dubel with Comté, like just some Comté cheese. You can even get grocery store Comté. I won't judge. But also plug for Maker and Monger. Excellent selected Comté at Maker and Monger. That or Hollerhocker, which is another Alpine cheese that is amazing. It's like melted leeks and chicken, but with a Belgian Dubel or a Belgian Quad. That combination I think is always a game changer for people. It's something I normally showcase at my Cheesemas that I like to do every year, which is a big cheese spread with a lot of beer, and friends come over and it's great.
Is it close to Christmas or is it?
It's on Christmas.
It is on Christmas.
Yeah, it's on Christmas Day. So people who have their families here, they spend time with their families during the day and then come to my house for Cheesemas.
And then have nightmares.
Dreams.
Just sweet dreams of delicious cheese and Belgian beers.
And I put it out in rounds, I really love that. Belgian. Yeah, that's so good. As far as NZ goes, I have not done New Zealand beers and snacks. Like I haven't had time when I'm over there. Haven't had time to like sit down and be in the right space to like get snacks and pair them. And normally when I bring stuff here, I don't think about it. I should.
How about bring some
steak and cheese pie?
Bring some NZ snacks home and then pair them with some HPA hopped beers. And that's your sales thing. You go into a brewery and go, guys, girls, sit down, have this amazing Kiwi snack with this, Enigma hop beer, and I'm going to blow your mind.
So I do that and I should do it with NZ snacks, but I do snack pairings. I do. Sorry, I'm a child. I do snack pairings for HPA. We have another round coming up. Touching on that, which I think I've done it before, but that's really fun for me because it's not just what snack goes best with the beer, it's what snack brings the hop character out the most. So I'm working on another round of that this week. They do those twice a year, and I work really hard on it. So it'd be really great if people actually got the beers that feature the hops and then got the snack to go along with them, because it is it's a real challenge. It's real fun for my brain. Oh, sour beers and goat's cheese, like a kettle sour with goat's cheese. I'm like, what else can I think of right now as far as pairings go? Steak and cheese pies. If you're in New Zealand, steak and cheese pies. New Zealand just does better job at pies. Sorry,
Better
Australia.
chips and better pies, hands down.
I think you had a pie in pretty much every town we passed through, didn't you?
That's actually pretty common for touring New Zealand if you're not a vegetarian.
Did you have one? Well, yeah, you're not a
No,
vegetarian.
James
No,
is.
you are. But I mean, you can. It's yeah. So I have a list of pies because it's something I've also taken on. Pies are a great on the road salesperson food. Just like gremlin eating a pie in a car. So I have a whole list of all the pies I've had in New Zealand. Butcher's Pie Shop in Christchurch, I think, has the best steak and cheese pie, in my opinion.
There's a tip for you, Lindsay. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I'm done.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers.
The Crafty Pint Podcast is produced and edited by me, Matt Hoffman. For all partnership inquiries, please reach out to Craig Williams at craig@craftypint.com. To keep up to date with everything in Australian craft beer, head to www.craftypint.com.